Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Arvind Educations or Arvind Biology Classes. Thanks for watching my videos. For more updates, please subscribe my channel Arvind Educations or Arvind Biology Classes. Today, here we are going to discuss about anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration. As I told you earlier, anaerobic respiration is nothing but the process of partial breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen. Partial breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. Here, glucose is partially broken down and it leads to the production of ethanol and carbon dioxide in lower organisms like bacteria and yeast and plants, whereas glucose is partially oxidized and leads to the production of lactic acid in human muscle cells. Okay, so let us see what happens in anaerobic respiration. And even I told you one more point, glycolysis is the common phase between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. And after that, when you got two pyruvic acids, these pyruvic acids are broken down into ethanol in the absence of oxygen in the cytoplasm itself. So let us see the process which is involved here. Okay, so glucose is converted to two pyruvic acids. Two pyruvic acid. Okay, so glucose is a carbon 6 compound, right? C6 compound. This is converted to form as two C3 compounds, and the amount of energy which is released here is 4 ATP, 2 NADH2, but 2 ATPs are consumed to begin the process of glycolysis we have discussed in aerobic respiration. So this entire process, this is called glycolysis, we discussed already. Okay, now this particular pyruvic acid, by losing carbon dioxide, it leads to the formation of acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is formed. Okay, this is a carbon 2 compound, right? Pyruvic acid, by losing carbon dioxide, it leads to the production of acetaldehyde, a carbon 2 compound. Now this acetaldehyde, by utilizing NADH2, which is produced in glycolysis, by utilizing NADH2, it is converted into ethanol or ethyl alcohol, which is a carbon 2 compound. Okay, but you see, by the end of glycolysis, we got two pyruvic acids. So from each pyruvic acid, by losing one carbon dioxide, converted to form as acetaldehyde. So losing carbon dioxide is called decarboxylation. Decarboxylation, right? So by losing this carbon dioxide, pyruvic acid is converted into acetaldehyde. There is no energy production, there is no energy consumption, and this process occurs in the absence of oxygen. Okay, and this acetaldehyde, by utilizing NADH2, okay, now this NADH2 is added, means utilized by acetaldehyde, it is converted to form as ethanol. Okay, so one acetaldehyde, by consuming one NADH2, it leads to the formation of one ethanol. Okay, energy rich substance is consumed here. Arrow mark is from NADH2 to NAD. Okay, but by the end of glycolysis, as we got two pyruvic acids, so from the second pyruvic acid, one more carbon dioxide is released and you will get one more acetaldehyde. So from two pyruvic acid, by losing two carbon dioxides, we got two acetaldehyde. Now, I said each acetaldehyde, by consuming NADH2, we got ethanol. Now 2 acetaldehyde, by consuming 2 NADH2, we'll get 2 NAD and we'll get 2 ethanol. 2 ethyl alcohols are produced at the end of anaerobic respiration, which is also seen in cytoplasm in the absence of oxygen. Okay, so when you go for energy calculation, as I told you earlier, 4 ATPs are produced 2 are consumed in the beginning itself. So the net gain of ATP are only 2. The net gain of ATP are only 2, but 2 NADH2 are formed, which are not further oxidized to form ATPs. But acetaldehyde, in order to convert into ethanol, 1 NADH2 is utilized. So 2 acetaldehyde, in order to lead to the formation of 2 ethanol, 2 NADH2 are consumed. So these 2 NADH2 are utilized here. Out of 4 ATPs, in the beginning itself, first step and third step, 2 ATPs are consumed. So the total net gain is only 2 ATP, but 2 NADH2 are there. These 2 NADH2 are utilized in conversion of acetaldehyde into ethanol. So NADH2 is also gone. So only we have 2 ATP. Only 2 ATP are with us by the end of anaerobic respiration. Okay, right? So anaerobic respiration is partial breakdown of glucose into ethanol. Along with ethanol, we got 2 carbon dioxide, 2 ethanols and 2 carbon dioxide, and the total amount of energy what we obtained at the end of the anaerobic respiration is just 2 ATP. That means when you see, for example, in the case of yeast, when you write an equation, right, glucose is converted to 2 pyruvic acids, okay, where this is in cytoplasm. This is in cytoplasm. Okay, no oxygen is required. Now this 2 pyruvate, same in cytoplasm, right, no oxygen is required, is converted into 2 ethanol, C2H5OH, 2 ethanol plus 2 CO2 plus 2 ATP energy. Okay, right? Whereas in the case of muscle cells, same glucose, right, converted to form as 2 pyruvate, that is same in cytoplasm, okay, and no oxygen is required. We got 2 pyruvic acid, then same in cytoplasm, okay, for which no oxygen is required. This pyruvate is converted to form as 2CH3 CHOH COOH, that is nothing but lactic acid. Lactic acid is produced, no CO2 is released here. The amount of energy what we obtained even here is also 2 ATP only. What I want to tell you through this is that comparing with aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration is very less efficient as far as energy is concerned, right? The amount of energy which is produced here is just 2 ATP, okay. That's why aerobic respiration produces more amount of energy comparing with anaerobic respiration. Now when lactic acid is produced in the muscle cells, during vigorous exercise, consumption of oxygen is faster than its availability. At that particular time, muscle cells, instead of performing aerobic respiration, they participate in anaerobic respiration. As oxygen depth is created, it leads to the production of lactic acid. Accumulation of this lactic acid leads to the formation of fatigue, and which leads to the muscle cramps. When later on, after some time, when oxygen depth is cleared, when lactic acid is converted into carbon dioxide and water, that fatigue is cleared and the muscle cells will come back to the normal level. Okay, so that is regarding anaerobic respiration. Then here itself we need to learn one more technical term, that is fermentation. Fermentation is nothing but, again we can use the almost same definition, that is the process of partial breakdown of glucose into ethanol, but in the presence of microorganisms. but in the presence of microorganisms. The process of breakdown of glucose into ethyl alcohol, ethanol and carbon dioxide and other organic substances are produced. But in the presence of microorganism, then it is called fermentation. So the complete breakdown of glucose into carbon dioxide and water is aerobic respiration. Partial breakdown of glucose into ethanol, carbon dioxide, or partial breakdown of glucose into lactic acid in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. Breakdown of glucose, partial breakdown of glucose into ethanol, but in the presence of microorganisms is called fermentation. Then you need to remember the why we, and I mean in daily life where we use fermentation. Fermentation is used in brewing industry. Okay, brewing industry means in the production of wine, whiskey, beer. Then the same fermentation is used in baking industry, that is for bread making. Okay, the same fermentation we use in the preparation of formation of curd and yogurt. Okay, then the same fermentation is also used in preparation of citric acid. Okay, then lactic acid. Okay, then vinegar, right? For formation of these substances also fermentation is required. Not only this, for even aromatization of tobacco and tea and cleaning of hides and separation of fibers, even for these purposes also fermentation is useful. So fermentation method is useful in everyday activity, life activities, that is brewing industry, helps in baking industry, helps in formation of curd and yogurt, helps in synthesis of citric acid, lactic acid, vinegar production, aromatization of tobacco and tea leaves, and then cleaning of hides and separation of fibers. Okay, so this is regarding fermentation. Now once you understand this, let us move into respiration in plants. Okay, so far we discussed the second part, which is common to both animals and plants, that is cellular respiration, both aerobically, anaerobically we discussed. Now let us see how plants respire. What are the ways by which a plant is able to inhale and exhale? I mean the process of exchange of gases, how it happens in the plants. Okay, plants respire through three ways. One is respiration through stomata. Second one, respiration through lenticels. Third one, respiration through general surface area of roots. So respiration in plants occurs through three ways: respiration through stomata, respiration through lenticels, and respiration through general surface area of roots. Let us see first one, respiration through stomata. We know stomata present in leaves. So through these minute openings, through stomata, through these minute openings, plants are in a position to take the oxygen and give out, means diffuse out the carbon dioxide. So oxygen is diffused through stomata, and carbon dioxide is diffused out when after metabolic activities, when glucose is converted into carbon dioxide and water, that carbon dioxide is diffused out through stomata. That is one. Second one, lenticels. Lenticels are the permanent openings on the bark of the woody stems. Okay, so these permanent openings are also responsible for exchange of gases. So oxygen is diffused in and carbon dioxide is diffused outside, and that will be seen on the stems, that is through lenticels found on the stems. Okay, stomata found on the leaves. Okay, not only through the leaves and stems, Even roots also participate in the process of respiration, that is only through the general surface area of the roots. That means when we go for plowing or tilling of the soil, the soil particles move aside and aeration is possible, air spaces are created, and the oxygen which is present between soil particles are taken by the extension of roots are called root hairs. That means extension of the root epidermal cell is called root hair. So this particular root hair, say for example, if this is the epidermal cell, if this is extended to form as a root hair like this, so in between soil particles, right, if the oxygen is present, that particular oxygen will enter into the root hair, and from root hair this particular oxygen will move into the next cells, and the carbon dioxide which is produced there will diffuse outside in the same way. Carbon dioxide is diffused outside in the same way. So general surface area of roots, the roots with the help of root hairs are the extensions of epidermal cells of roots. They are able to take the oxygen in and diffuse out the carbon dioxide. Okay. Then if it is the case of older roots, they do not have root hairs, but older roots, they possess a layer of dead cells which are protective in nature. Along with that, those dead cells in the middle, they possess the openings. Through those openings, the old roots are able to respire. Okay, right? So this is how plants are able to respire. And here one more point we have to remember. Respiration occurs in organisms every time, 24 hours. Regarding plants I am speaking. But whereas plants will exhibit photosynthesis only during daytime. Okay, respiration occurs throughout the day and night, whereas photosynthesis occurs only during daytime. So during daytime, the amount of carbon dioxide which is released during respiration is taken by the same plant for its photosynthesis. That means amount of carbon dioxide released during respiration is taken by the plant for its photosynthesis. So carbon dioxide is not released outside. Instead of that, oxygen is released outside. Why? Because photosynthesis is going on. So the rate at which the carbon dioxide which is supposed to be released is consumed by the plant itself is called a compensation point. Is called its compensation point. Amount of CO2 supposed to be released is taken by the same plant for its photosynthesis purpose. That is called as compensation point. Okay. Once you understand this, then we have to move into respiration in animals. Okay. So respiration in animals. Here we have terrestrial animals and we have aquatic animals. Terrestrial animals, the animals which are living on land, they obtain their oxygen from air. The animals which are living in water, aquatic, they depends on the oxygen which is dissolved in water. Okay. So different organisms, based on their mode of habitat, they developed different respiratory organs and they had their own type of respiration. So let us have a small note on respiration in different animals. Okay. So here let us see respiratory organ, type of respiration, then examples. Okay. So first one in unicellular organisms which exhibit their respiration through a process called diffusion, there is no specific respiratory organ. They exhibit the process of respiration through diffusion. A better example is amoeba. So unicellular organisms, they respire with the help of a process called diffusion. There is no specific respiratory organ. Okay. Then second one, through skin, it is called cutaneous respiration. It is called cutaneous respiration. Okay. Better examples: earthworm, leech, and some amphibians. Some amphibians. Okay. Then third one, respiration through trachea. This is called tracheal respiration. Tracheal respiration. Well-known example, insects. Then fourth one, through gills. That is called branchial respiration. Branchial respiration. You can see this in fishes, crabs, and tadpole larva of frog. Okay. Then last one, fifth one, through lungs. It is called pulmonary respiration. Pulmonary respiration. So in mammals, right, in birds, in reptiles, and even in some of the amphibians, they exhibit pulmonary respiration. So let us see once this. When you see the unicellular organism like amoeba, they do not have a proper respiratory organ. Okay, so simply say, for example, consider this as amoeba living in aquatic medium. So when amoeba, a unicellular organism, when it is performing its metabolic activities, the amount of oxygen present in its body is utilized. When the amount of oxygen present in its cytoplasm is utilized, the amount of oxygen is reduced, lowered, comparing with the amount of oxygen which is present in its surrounding medium. So oxygen from surrounding medium diffused into cytoplasm of amoeba. Then when metabolic activities are going on, carbon dioxide is produced. The amount of carbon dioxide in the cytoplasm of amoeba is more comparing with the carbon dioxide present in its surrounding water. So carbon dioxide is diffused outside. So in unicellular organisms, as they consume more and more oxygen, the amount of oxygen present in the cytoplasm is reduced, so they take oxygen from outside into the cytoplasm. So oxygen is diffused into the cytoplasm through body surface area. Then when amount of carbon dioxide is produced more, that comparing with outside medium, that carbon dioxide is diffused outside through the body surface area, right? So they exhibit a process, they exchange their gases through a process called diffusion. Okay. Then the organism, if it exhibit respiration through skin, then that is called cutaneous respiration. Earthworm, leech, and even frog also to certain extent exhibit cutaneous respiration. To exhibit cutaneous respiration, they always need to keep their skin moist. When they keep their skin moist, and if their skin is richly supplied with blood vessels, then the process of exchange of gases will become easy. Okay, they should keep their skin moist. Their body skin should be richly supplied with blood vessels, then the process of exchange of gases will become easy. Okay. Then in the case of tracheal respiration, if respiration occurs through trachea, it is called tracheal respiration. It is seen in the case of insects. Insects, they cannot respire through their skin because they develop a hard, thick cuticle, impervious membrane, so-called cuticle, that is formed as an exoskeleton. Because of that exoskeleton, they cannot respire through skin. Moreover, they do not possess hemoglobin, which is able to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide very easily, right? So because of that reason, they developed a separate system that is called tracheal respiratory system, which includes more number of tubes, pipelines called tubes. They are called trachea, which opens outside on its with the help of openings called spiracles on either side of its body surfaces. So insects exhibit tracheal respiration. Next, if the respiration occurs through gills, then that is called branchial respiration. This is seen in the case of aquatic organisms. In fishes, crabs, and tadpole larva of frog, they respire through gills. Gills are richly supplied with blood vessels. So the process of exchange of gases occurs between gills and these blood vessels when water baths over those particular gills. Okay. Finally, if respiration occurs through lungs, it is called pulmonary respiration. Mammals, birds, reptiles and some of the amphibians, they exhibit pulmonary respiration. So in the next part we are going to discuss about pulmonary respiration. Thank you for watching my videos. For latest updates, please subscribe my channel Arvind Biology Classes or Arvind Educations. Thank you.